Databases. Does that word sound boring to you? It probably does, but don't be bored by it. Databases are fascinating and they're part of our everyday lives, and you don't even realise there's databases that you use on a regular basis every day and that you cannot live without. Let's find out what they are. Keep watching this video to find out more about databases and to find out about the history of databases. They've always been around. Think about it. So we're going to look at what databases are. Now, what I don't want you to be scared by or even bored by is the word database, because we use them all the time, as I said earlier in the video. So don't be scared by the word database. Now, all the database is that we store our information in a way that we want to be able to find it again. It's that simple. So we look for our information and in a way that we require, such as alphabetical order, numerical order, or we search by asking the database some questions. So it's all queries is asking questions and finding out information. That's all it is. Now, what can be stored in a database? Well, anything that basically can be stored on a computer, anything at all. Text could be stored on a computer, for example. Numbers can be stored on a computer. Images, audio files, video files, anything can be stored on a computer. Now, this is where you're going to find that databases are not so complicated, because they're in our everyday lives. We use them all the time, okay? We use them at work, we use them on our phones, we use them on our computers, we use them all the time. And one of the biggest databases that we use is Google. Do you ask Google a question every day? You probably do. So when you ask Google a question or type something into Google, you are simply making a query. That is all you're doing. Rightmove, or in Spain, for example, there's Fotocasa. So these are simply databases of properties. So when you're looking to move house or rent a flat or anything like that, and you type into these databases, I want a house in this area and it must have at least 3 bedrooms and a price must be, that is a query that you're producing. Shazam. So when you actually hear a song, maybe in a shopping centre, or someone's playing a song in their car and you Shazam it, you're actually asking a database a question. And then what they do is they go through the lyrics on their database and they bring up the song that you're listening to. The National DNA Database in the UK, maybe in America as well, or even across Europe, across several continents, there is a national DNA database. And that is how they solve all these murders that may have happened years ago, all these cold cases. So there's been murders, there's been sexual assaults, there's been so many things. And what they do is they match up the DNA, because the DNA is unique to you. And it's all kept on a database. So there's high-powered people using databases all the time to solve crimes. So far, we've found out that we can use databases to look for a property to live, to solve crimes, to find out what song we're listening to, or just about anything. Library services. Okay, so libraries across the region of Essex, for example, you can actually search for a book or an ebook that you're looking for, and it will tell you whether that book's available or not. And of course that goes for libraries in any other country. And music. Okay, so here you may recognise this as, I don't know, it may be an older version because I've not used iTunes or Macs or anything for years. But when you keep your music on your computer or on your phone, that's actually a database that you have. So databases are nothing to be bored by, they're nothing to be scared by, They're in our everyday lives and we use them all the time. So guess what? You were already a database expert and you didn't even know it. But let's make our knowledge go deeper than this. They've always been around. They've always been around. And obviously for you younger people watching this, you're sitting there thinking probably, yeah, they've always been around. I've been using databases since I could use a tablet maybe. But they've always been around in some way or some shape or some form. And I'm going to show you how right now. Yellow Pages. Now, I remember this being delivered to my doorstep when I was a child, obviously. But maybe to some of the people watching this video now, I may be a lot older than you. So I remember when I was a child in the 90s, which is probably before some of you were born possibly, this big thick yellow book used to come on our doorstep and it was called the Yellow Pages. So it was anything that we wanted, we had to go through the Yellow Pages to find it. Now these days, if you say, okay, I would like to order a pizza, you'd probably go on justeat.com. Or maybe you go on Deliveroo for anything like that. But we had to go through the Yellow Pages and look down, I don't know, P for pizza, and find the pizza areas in our pizza stores in our area, order our pizza and get it delivered to us. And these days, for anything like that, there's always somewhere to go. These are how records used to be kept. So, for example, doctor's surgeries would have records just like this about every single patient maybe. Schools, offices, anywhere used to keep their records in paper folders just like this. Address books. I remember my mum and dad having this. Now, if we wanted to find out somebody's phone number, so for example, if I wanted to ring, I don't know, Auntie Enid, you'd probably go to E in the address book, look up Enid and ring her. Well, what would you do these days? WhatsApp them, look for the phone number in your phone book, for example, on your phone, which is now digital. Go through your Facebook Messenger. I don't know, anything like that. But do people own these days? Probably not. And then, of course, there were, and there still are, these are still around, catalogues. So, for example, catalogues are a form of database, such as in the UK, for example, the Argos catalogue. In other parts of the world and the UK, of course, the IKEA catalogue. So, these were all paper-based databases. And the last one here is the paper-based databases. Before libraries got computers, if you wanted to find out if a book was available or not, you had to go through these funny little index cards right here. And as I said, databases were always been around, but they were on paper. Now, it's a different story. We don't see rooms like this anymore, really, unless you obviously go to some historical archives, for example. These are all now on a computer. So one time, rooms like this were probably a regular occurrence, where you would have to hire an excellent member of staff that was very organised and very highly trained to be able to organise and sort through rooms like this of records. All these records will now go onto one computer. So these were saved to one computer on servers. You can now type in and ask, make a query to sort through the records. Obviously, nobody had Ask Jeeves or anything like then, or they probably don't really use it now. But going further than that, most of this stuff is now stored on the cloud because it's a lot safer. Because if anything happens in buildings such as maybe fires, floods, power outages, and the worry of losing data can now be placed on companies, on cloud services that can guarantee the safety of your data. What are databases used for? Now, we've already been through some of this about how you use databases, and we've even discussed the National DNA database, okay, so how the police may use a database, but that's just one small section of how they may use a database. So here's an example. Well, we store information about people. In hospitals have a records management of how they store a patient's profile, what room they're in, what ward they're in, what bed they're in, what allergies they have, why they're in hospital to begin with. Schools store information about you, okay, assuming that you are a school student watching this. We know who your parents are. Obviously there's a picture of you, your timetable, any awards that you've had, praises that you've had, any behaviour problems, the classes you take, your attendance, where you live. Okay, all the information that we need to know as a school is stored about you. Material items. There are databases on material items. So, for example, the DVLA in the UK, sorry, I use the UK as an example for this sort of thing because obviously that's what I'm familiar with. But the DVLA, which is the Driving Vehicles Licensing Authority in the UK, stores information about every car that has entered the UK and registered in the UK. So we store all that information. Who owns the vehicle? Where is the vehicle registered? If the vehicle's on the road or not? If it has had its... obviously in Spain these are ITV checks, but in the UK we have something called an MOT for safety checks. The British Library has over 150 million titles in their database. So that's items, that is old documents, books, lots and lots there. So the British Library has all that information, and I should imagine all or most of that information would be stored on their computer system. So over 150 million, it's crazy. Events that take place when you book a hotel room. How many nights do you want it for? What kind of room do you want? When you're going to check in, for example. And racing results. So, the position that the horse came in, what horse won, okay, what time it came in, that sort of thing. So all that information is stored. Now, let's take a look at the structure of a database, or what a database will look like. Now, most databases are set into fields, obviously. So there's always fields. Now, each field has a unique category. Then each record after that is all the information required of that database. So when we was looking about how databases would have began, each of these records would have been, say, an A4 piece of paper or several A4 pieces of paper. But thanks to computers, we can actually make that a lot smaller and a lot simpler and a lot more organised to go through. Now here's a simple example of a database. So here's a database, for example, of a car. So we've got the make of the car. So who manufactures the car, such as Kia, Ford or Citroen. The model that they manufacture, because obviously all car companies manufacture more than one type of car. The colour and the price. So we're imagining this database could be somebody who sells cars. And obviously don't sell very many cars, whereas bigger companies may have lots and lots and lots of cars for sale. So, the primary key. Now, the primary key in every database is a unique identifier. So, if we look back here at our car company, and they may have, 5 Opel Insignias, and white could be a very popular colour. So if they was to type in Opel Insignia for the car model in their database, 2 or 3 white cars could come up. So what would make that unique, that particular record? We can think of many databases here. In a gym, a membership number is the unique identifier. So therefore, that is the primary key. So you've got big companies such as in Spain, GoFit may be one. There's more than one GoFit in Spain. In the UK, Fitness First. And there's lots of members that could have the same name. So for example, a very common name in the UK could be Smith. And therefore, there may be more than one Jack Smith. So if they were to type into the database Jack Smith, there could be several that come up. But if they were to type in that person's membership number, then only their record would appear. The same with cars. What makes a car unique is their registration plate, or their number plate, or a license plate, whatever you want to call it. So with cars, every car, now there could be hundreds of, you can see this is a Volkswagen, the colour's black. There are hundreds of black Volkswagens, but there's only one with this number plate. In places like Argos, for example, if you want a particular item in Argos, you have to put in the catalogue number, and that item will have that catalogue number for you to receive the correct item. And with you are an examination candidate. You have a candidate number, and if you're with, which I hope you are if you're watching this video, with the International Board of Cambridge, there may be many candidates across the world that have your have your name, but they don't have your candidate number. So, for example, if you want to say, my name is Carla Smith, there might be a Carla Smith in the UK. There may be a Carla Smith in Australia. There may be a Carla Smith in, for example, Hong Kong. And then they say, okay, Carla Smith, what exam did you sit? I sat English language. They all probably did. But if you say, I'm Carla Smith and my candidate number is 0010, the only Carla Smith in the world that would appear is you. So, looking back at our car registration plate table, our car registration table, I think I'm giving you the answer now. How can we improve it to make it unique? Well, we can simply add, and sorry, I forgot to give you this example. This is the book ISBN. So you may be familiar with this. If you was to type in the ISBN number in Google, the only book that will come up is that one. Okay? So here we are. To make our database produce one unique record, we can add car registration plate numbers. Okay? Right, so moving on. How are primary keys formed? Now, with software such as Access, you can actually make it create a unique ID, an auto ID, so it just simply number every record 1, 2, 3. Obviously, many industries and many companies don't do that. So what they may do is they may take the first 2 digits of something. So for example, if you're going to the doctors, they may take the first 2 letters of your doctor's surname and maybe the first 4 digits of your date of birth. That is a possibility. But looking at an example here, this is the last part of this presentation, by the way. This is the last part we're going to look at in terms of database theory, is car number plates. So here's a UK car number plate. Now, UK car number plates are made up this way. So the last 3 letters are the region. Okay, the random letters. And the first 2 letters are the region. Now, obviously, there aren't many I've not seen a car number plate beginning with GB, because we know GB is Great Britain. But what they do is they actually register the card. The first two letters of the region are the place that it's actually registered, and then the second letter is the office. So, for example, if I was to buy a car, say this time, right now, and this is August in 2019, and I was to register my car in Essex, then they would actually register my car as E. The first letter would be E for Essex, because that's the region. And the office, it depends where the office is. I think the office is in Chelmsford, so it would be EA. Okay, so it'd be the office in Chelmsford, or Y. Then the year would be, so it depends when it comes out. So as I said, this is August, this is the later part. So my registration plate, if it was this year, would be, I think, 6 and 9, meaning the last part of the year, and 9 for the year. I do believe that is correct, but obviously you can double check. I'm not a car expert. So, and that is how they generate car number plates. So therefore, that is how they generate a primary key for the vehicle's database in the UK. Now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've found that insightful and learnt a lot. Don't forget, please, to subscribe and like my videos. Teachers, you may visit my shop on Tess. I have lots of free resources, and I also have other resources that are very cheap and of high quality. Lessons generally start, whole lessons with PowerPoint and activities, about £3. Follow me on Twitter, ICT and Computer Science with Miss Price. And don't forget to click on a link underneath for the free activity. So teachers, you may have set this homework for your students. So students, get on with your homework. Or students that are studying for your exam, please feel free to complete the free activity to expand your knowledge. Thank you for watching.